Hi, Gabrielle. Thank you for joining us today on Workplace Woes podcast. I'm definitely happy to have you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. How's your morning going? First off,
It's, it's been good. Can't complain. Can't complain.
that's
How's yours
good.
been?
It's been a really good morning. I feel like I woke up very excited because I knew I was going to be able to interview with you. So I'm pumped up. Um, I guess you could talk about really whatever position you've had, but really the objective of this conversation is to talk about, workplace experiences. Was the workplace experience great for you? Was the workplace experience not so great? And if it wasn't, why? We'll talk about leadership. We'll talk about, just suggestions that you may have for the employer you choose to talk about. So things like that. So I
Okay.
do want to just kind of give you another disclaimer and we'll kind of go ahead and get right into it for those who are just waiting to hear conversations about, this objective. So the first question, and I'm starting off with questions because I just want to have specific questions that we talk about and we focus on first. And then from that point, we can talk about whatever, we talk about. So the first
Okay.
question I definitely want to talk to you about is, um, can you describe an opportunity for growth at the company that you choose to talk about today?
Um, the company that I previously worked at did not have a lot of opportunities for growth, unfortunately. There was not a lot of open positions in leadership. There was only one that had just recently been filled as a team lead position, which the team lead, there were many, many, many issues with that as well that we can discuss a little later. But other than that, there weren't really many opportunities for growth, unfortunately. Even when I asked about different opportunities, there were no real options given. So a lot of it was
Okay.
me going out seeking outside options for trainings and certifications.
Got it. And I guess I know that probably was like a weird first question to ask, but I guess I've been doing a lot of research, and in my research, I see that oftentimes people leave their job because there's no upper mobility at their job. So thank you for answering that question, and maybe we can expand on that later down our interview. When I ask you some other questions, maybe you can expand. So the next
Okay.
question, you mentioned, the team leader that was hired. And so actually that was my second question that I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you is at this, at this employer, how was your relationship with your leader or even their leader? Um, did they make you feel valued? Just kind of expand on that relationship piece.
So my relationship with the supervisor was pretty good. She's who I interviewed with. She's the one that hired me, who I had been in communications with before beginning the job. She was very diligent in keeping with contact with me, letting me know what was going on throughout the process before I was hired, and
Okay.
also very involved, making me feel welcome, very talkative, very open. So our relationship, I think, was pretty good.
That's good.
The team lead, maybe not so much. From my understanding, she was a former employee that was kind of in the role as the rest of us and had got a promotion to team lead. Um,
Okay.
and it
That happened.
kind of maybe went to her head a little bit. Um,
Okay.
we had a couple run-ins where we did not see eye to eye on situations. She had a few run-ins with other staff that were newly hired as well, um, and
Oh, we have a lot going on.
yeah, ended up being reprimanded because she was over the top, outrageous on a lot of
Okay.
things, just kind of belligerent with other employees, and they ended up filing complaints. Um,
Yeah.
but like I said, we had a couple run-ins where we did not see eye to eye, and I felt that me going to my supervisor about it, my
Mhm.
supervisor was more of the peacekeeper type person,
Okay.
well, let's just see what we can figure out. Maybe, we can talk,
Mediator.
but it No,
It
you
doesn't work.
know, if I'm telling you there's a problem, multiple people are telling you there's a problem, there's a problem, you know.
There's a problem.
So
Clearly, there's a
um,
problem.
there's a
That's true.
problem.
We have to.
So it was,
That's
mhm. So it was really no support in that from her because I think she was more of the peacekeeper type supervisor, which is nice, you know.
yeah,
But
of
at
course,
times there needs to be, yeah, like you need to take these concerns from multiple people seriously, you know,
absolutely.
so they
I
feel
agree.
validated and appreciated. So
And
that
I
was kind of
appreciate
that
the story.
situation.
I mean, that was a lot of information. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you being so transparent. Um, and
Hmm.
I've experienced that too myself, where someone is maybe hired because they have that technical piece. Maybe they've been
Yeah.
at a position for a very long time, so they're
Correct.
extraordinary at their actual job, but they're not that extraordinary at leading. So
Yeah.
it sounds like maybe it was something similar to what you experienced. Would you agree or disagree?
Absolutely. Hmm.
Yeah. So it was just like that person was good at their job, but not necessarily good at leading. And
Correct.
so you said that they were reprimanded. So it sounds like you all were heard. Do you feel like you were heard? Do you all feel like your complaints were heard?
No. So this was about almost a year later. After all this had been going on
Mm.
with multiple employees,
A
one
year
employee
later?
actually went over. Yeah, one employee, like she was really bad with this one employee, and she went over the supervisor's head eventually because she was depressed. She was
Mm.
here from Kentucky, had no family here, came to Dayton for this job, and
Yes.
this team lead just like going in on her, and she was depressed, she was stressed, she didn't want to come to work, she's
Hate to hear
miserable, you know,
that.
all that we talk about, workplace woes, right, was her.
Right.
So
Right.
she ended up going
Yes.
above the supervisor and filing a complaint. And then they did an investigation and found
It went
out
that
that,
far.
you know, she, of course, was in the wrong, the team lead. So she had to
Mm.
take anger management. And this was only came about actually because she was in the supervisor's office yelling at the other employee in front of the supervisor, and other people witnessed it, like yelling at the top of her lungs. Like there's no need for you to be
No
yelling
way. No
at
way.
any
I
woman
agree
like
with
that.
you. I think if
So, I mean, that's really it.
that's horrible. I think for me it's troubling to hear that it
Mhm.
took so long. It sounds like, I mean, I know we've been talking for a
Right.
brief, moment, but just what you've expressed, it sounds like so many people made a complaint on this leader, but nothing was done. And it had to take
Right.
for the leader to actually yell at someone. And I can only imagine how that made her feel when being yelled at by your supervisor for something to be
Mhm.
done. So, I definitely want other leaders and other employers, and I hope that they, are able to watch this conversation. So if they are experiencing the same thing, they react fast. We should react quicker. We should
Mhm.
react urgently when we're talking about people being miserable at work. So I really
Right.
appreciate the feedback. That goes to my next question. I would say it sounds like you felt kind of supported by your leader's leader the most. So that was covered. But I guess the next question would be if you could give that employer or that leader a piece of advice or a suggestion, what would that be?
So I would definitely want for the team lead to have compassion. You know, you were in this
Yeah,
position, you are still technically in this position.
right.
She would refuse to help. We were swamped. She would refuse to help at all. She would just sit there for her whole shift, basically playing on her phone. Um, but just have compassion. Like, you know this role. You know that we're stressed. You know that the type of things that come in, the type of patients that we're seeing, the type of situations we're dealing with. Um, just be the person that you would want to have. Like, be that person that you would want to have in a leadership
Absolutely.
position for you. And then just show
Absolutely.
us that same grace.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree. When I think about leaders who have influenced me the most in my career, I don't feel that it was the leaders that was the most technical. I honestly feel that it was the
Mhm,
leaders that took their time out with me, meaning
mhm,
engaged me, the leaders that I felt like truly valued my talent, and the leaders that I felt that I
mhm,
could learn from and actually had time to teach me because oftentimes, leaders take on a lot of responsibilities, so they're in a rush, but being able to
mhm,
have that fine balance to care for your people is very important. So I really appreciate that feedback for you. So, if you think about one leader that has really
mhm.
influenced your career, what made them be so influential to you?
I would say one leader I had a previous position. It's been a while. Um, and he was very I guess you could say compassionate. He really wanted to know, what can I do to help you? How are you feeling? What's going on? Even outside of the workplace. He wanted to know what is affecting you and how he can help. If he can help, if
Right.
not, can he refer you to someone? Can he get someone else involved? Can he get a mentor for you? So he was
Mhm.
very involved, and like I
Okay.
said, wanted to not only make sure you're okay at work, but is your home life okay?
Yes.
Is your mental health okay?
Yes.
Are your kids
Yes.
okay? So
Right.
just kind of being present and recognizing that I'm a person. I'm not just a worker. This
Right.
is not where my life ends. It
Right.
goes on outside of work.
Right, right. That was a whole mouthful because I really honestly feel that, a lot of leaders have gotten away from truly caring. Um,
Mhm.
and you really said something so impactful to me. It's like after work as an employee, my life still goes on. So that means
Mhm.
that I know it's easy. I've heard some people say when you come to work, let home go, or when you leave
Mhm.
work, what I'm saying? And you go home, let work go. But sometimes
Mhm.
that's really hard to do because oftentimes we
Absolutely.
spend most of our day at work. So if any place in the world needs to feel safe and you need to feel supported, it's so important for you to feel that way at work. So I'm really
Mhm.
hoping, Gabrielle, the whole objective of this podcast is to, I'm glad that we were able to end on a positive note. One, on that leader who influenced you. So I definitely want to shout out that leader for influencing you. And I'm hoping that other leaders listen to this podcast episode and that they are also influenced to not only just show up to do the technical piece, but to also
Mhm.
care about your
Mhm.
employees as well, because caring, it really creates a loyal and a productive environment. I mean, at least for me,
Absolutely.
would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I really don't want to take too much of your time. I really feel like we discussed so much. Thank you so much for your transparency. Thank you so much for being the first
Absolutely.
interviewee on Workplace Woes podcast.
Thank
I
you.
hope that I can see you again in the future. And before you
Yes.
go, what is your title? What is your professional title?
I am a licensed independent social worker.
All right. So kudos to all the social workers in the
Thank
world.
you.
Thank you so much
Yes.
for your service. And I'm sure that being a social worker is fulfilling, but a lot of work. So I just want
Mhm.
to kudos out to all the social workers around the world. And I want to thank you for your service and your time. And I just hope that you have a powerful day.
Thank you. You as well.
All
Thanks for
righty.
having me.
Bye.
Bye.